What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a movie I got to check out just a tad bit early, and that movie is called Arthur the King. Directed by Cellan Jones, it's starring people like Mark Wahlberg, Simu, Nathalie, Emmanuel, Suliman, Juliet Rylance, and more. Arthur the King is based on a true story about a dog joining a racing team. Hey guys, and welcome to the channel once again. Thank you so much for clicking on the video and taking the time out of your day to join me here to talk about Arthur the King. If you're like me and you go to the movie theaters pretty much every week, there's no doubt that you've seen the marketing for Arthur the King at some point going to the theaters. This week they actually did AMC's Unseen mystery screenings just the day before I got to see it, so a lot of general audience members got to see it then as well. And then yesterday, as of filming this, I actually got to go to another early screening that had a general audience in there, as well as the press and media, which is what I was invited for to go and check this movie out. Now, going into this movie, it looked like it was going to be a traditional, straightforward, feel-good movie about a group of individuals going on a wild race, and they meet a dog along the way, and it just seemed like it was going to be one of those cute, just dog charming movies. But I was a little worried going into it that there was going to be some heartbreaking elements to it as well. Some of the marketing, as well as some of the things that the various people involved in the film, including Mark Wahlberg and some of the other cast members, have been putting out, have maybe alluded to some things that I think can be spoilery, and somebody in our screening actually said what they said in that marketing, which for me was a little bit spoilery. I'd rather go into a movie like this with little knowledge without knowing what's gonna happen or what to expect or what not to expect. So with that said, I'm gonna talk about the story and the events of this film without getting into the nitty-gritty, because this is a pretty straightforward film and there isn't much to it, so I don't want to take away what there is from it. Arthur the King starts off and we're introduced to the character of Michael Lindnord. I should also mention this is based on a true story and is played by Mark Wahlberg. Now, at the very beginning of the film, we learn pretty immediately that he is the leader of this group that's in a big adventure race, essentially a big triathlon of sorts that they do overseas in various countries. And this guy is pretty well known for, being probably one of the best in the sport. Unfortunately, though, he's never won, and a lot of that has to come down to the fact that he's really hard-headed and a lot of times would push his team beyond their limits just because he was willing to put himself in any sort of risk, just because he was willing to push himself beyond the boundaries. So he consistently lost these races simply because he wasn't able to kind of just be humble and recognize that he has to work with his team as a unit and be able to recognize where they're failing or maybe where they need to rest or different things like that in order for them to actually win these races. So a lot of times his arrogance and his hard-headedness would consistently cause him to lose. That's how we learn about him at the very beginning of the film, as they are actually losing a race, and a couple of years pass and it's just weighing heavy on his heart. He's a racer, he wants to do these big races, and he just feels unhappy with where he is in life. And so after talking to his wife, she implores him to go and give it one more shot. Build a team, get some sponsors, get out there, do this huge adventure race that you want to do, make it the big last one that you want it to be, win the race, and live out your dreams, so to speak. So he does just that, and the first act of this film is pretty quick, pretty rushed, as they go around and he is essentially recruiting everybody that's in his team. Those various individuals are played by Nathalie Emmanuel, who's a great rock climber. Her father is now dying of cancer, which is kind of her motivator to go out there and win this race for him. It's something that he wants her to do as well, because it's something he used to do in his past. You also have Simu here in the mix as well, who's probably the most popular of the bunch here. He's really popular on social media, and so that's part of why they end up bringing him along, because of the social media fame. And then you have Suliman playing the character of Chick, who is somebody who has history with Michael, but now has a bad knee, which is something that may come into play as they go on to this adventure race. And so that's the basic gist of this film, and then they go off onto this race. They're trying to figure it out, they're trying to work together as a team, they're hitting some roadblocks, they're bumping heads at times, and amidst all this, they end up running into one of the many stray dogs in the Dominican Republic, which is where this race takes place, and this dog ends up becoming one of their teammates, helping them along the way, saving them from dangerous moments, and also winning over their hearts. And they choose to name this dog Arthur the King. And so yeah, that's pretty much the basic gist of this movie. It's based on a true story about a true racer that found this dog, and there are some heartbreaking elements throughout the course of the film. There are some elements that will tug on the heartstrings of individuals, especially if you're a dog person. And there were definitely moments in this film that definitely were tugging on my heartstrings. There were a couple of moments where I started to feel myself be fairly teary-eyed. And I am a dog person. I've had dogs throughout majority of my life. And if you guys have been following this channel for a while, then you know that only just a little bit over a year ago, my boy Charlie was in my life for about 13 years. Unfortunately, got sick right near the end of his life and we had to put him down. It was a really hard week. I took a little break from YouTube and I came back and I talked about him. And yeah, undoubtedly watching this movie was just bringing up memories of Charlie while watching this, on a good hand and a bad hand. This movie on one hand was breaking my heart because it reminded me of my loss and it reminded me of this hole in my life that I still feel to this day. But on another hand, movies like this do such a great job of really celebrating why these little furry creatures are so important to us and how they can be more than just a dog you see randomly walking around on the street, you know? I think there's this perspective for some people that, oh, that's just a stray, leave them be. But those are babies that need love, you know? And at least that's my outlook on it. And so this movie does a really great job of making Arthur just adorable. The dog that they chose to play Arthur in the film has some of the sweetest eyes I've ever seen on a dog. And there's just so many cute and very charming moments throughout the course of this film, specifically between the dog playing Arthur as well as Mark Wahlberg, who is the lead star here in this film. So with all that said, in terms of my opinions on the film, I could just genuinely say that this was a charming, cute, good fun time, feel-good movie that is conventional and safe in pretty much every way. The movie clocks in at 90 minutes on the dot with credits. It is a breeze of a watch. It does not take up too much of your time. It does not overstay its welcome, but it doesn't necessarily do anything to really push the boundaries, so to say. I think in the hands of a stronger writer and director, this maybe could have become a far more impactful and inspirational movie. But if you've seen the trailers, the downside is that a lot of the trailer footage and the way that that trailer is edited shows a lot of the big key moments in the film. So as somebody who had seen the trailer for this film dozens and dozens of times over the course of going to theaters or just scrolling past it on social media, then yeah, you know, going into this, there was really little to no surprises in terms of where things were going to go. So for me, it felt safe, it felt conventional, it felt like I knew what this movie was. And on one hand, I enjoy them. I think that we live in a world where a lot of the blockbusters are the ones that are considered blockbusters, the big IP-driven movies. They're not all doing incredible at the box office. They're not all bringing people into the theaters immediately like they used to. And so I think we're kind of seeing this resurgence of, you know, smaller, you know, middle range films that don't necessarily have the highest stakes, but are just something that people can watch and have a good time with. And I think that Arthur the King is just that. I think if you go see this movie in theater, you know, with tame expectations, just recognizing that this is just a feel-good classic movie that is almost reminiscent of feel-good movies from the 90s and the 2000s, then you're going to have a good time with it. And I do think this is a movie that will do well over time on streaming once it starts to pop up and people can just kind of throw this on without any of the trailers, you know, something that like 5, 6, 7 years from now, somebody's like, oh yeah, I remember seeing the poster for this, or I remember seeing the trailer, I don't really remember much about it, let me throw it on. I think that those audience members years from now who find this movie are going to just find it to be a fun, cute, charming film of its time. I don't necessarily think that this is a mind-blowing film when it comes to writing and character work, as Mark Wahlberg's character is really the only one we really focus in on. While we have moments with all the other people that he's on this race with, I found that most of them were kind of wasted, with Simu probably being the one that they give the most screen time to, and he's mostly relegated to humor throughout the course of the film. However, there are some great moments between these four, Nathalie, Emmanuel, Mark Wahlberg, Simu and Ali Suliman, as they're on this race. I think there's some great like teamwork moments in this film. There's some great moments of being humble and some great moments of recognizing when you kind of have to sacrifice something for somebody else. I think this movie has a lot of those really great, charming, cute messages, and has a really cute dog at the center that I really enjoyed. So that's going to be my thoughts on Arthur the King. Again, nothing incredible. I don't think this is the film that's going to blow your socks off. I don't think this is a film that's going to be on people's top 10 best movies of the year when we get to the very end of the year, but I found it to be a good, fun time. I think if you go and see it in theaters and you go in just knowing this is a straightforward, conventional, feel-good movie, then you'll have a good time with it. But if you go into it expecting a little bit more, then you may be a little bit disappointed. Again, nothing incredible, but a movie that I found myself enjoying and found myself a little teary-eyed too. I think if you're a dog fan as well, there's going to be a lot of these moments throughout the course of the film that are definitely going to tug on the heartstrings, even if you didn't love the rest of the movie. So that's going to be my thoughts on Arthur the King. Definitely can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Are you planning to see the movie? Whatever the case may be, leave any and all comments down below. And one other question I'll add for anybody who got to this point in the video, and thank you to anybody who got to this point in the video, is if you have a dog, what are some of your fondest memories of originally building that bond with your dog when you first got them or when you first found them or whatever the case may be. Everybody's story for how they found their dog is so different, and Charlie, who I mentioned earlier, was actually a stray that we found in the streets of Miami. So being able to have had a whole life with him after just kind of pulling him off the streets as this random dog who walked up to us was pretty amazing, you know. And I think that everybody always has such a different story with how their first steps with a dog started. So definitely leave some comments on that. Would love to hear it. And anyway, I'll stop rambling now. A big thanks to you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.